Okay, great. So we're going to start today in a reclined position. So see how this feels for you. I found in general, this is nice for me in pregnancy when it doesn't feel good to lay on your back. You can still recline with an incline. If that doesn't work for you, you're welcome to lay on your side or stay seated. But I've just got a bolster with 2 bricks. Apparently the incline should be, I think it's about 15 or 30 degrees, but I don't really know how to measure that. It's really just where you feel comfortable. So just laying back in a way that you can kind of relax and feel comfortable. And just be aware, especially later in your pregnancy, you just want to be careful how you're using your core muscles. So as you lay back, make sure you're using your hands to do most of the work and you're not really bracing in your core. And you can also come from sort of on your side and then rolling back. And then just have your legs in any comfortable position. So that might be butterfly legs. You might have your legs out long, or some of you might like feet wide, knees together, and just arms wherever, including hands could be resting on baby or out to the sides or whatever you want. Okay, so just taking a moment to get comfortable. This should feel pretty easeful. And again, if it doesn't and you want to lay on your side at any point, that's completely fine. And then just taking a couple of deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. So being pregnant is enough to make us feel tired, okay, to need a little resting and restoring, but some of us are dealing with other things. So we're recovering from the smoke. We've had a stormy, rainy day today at the autumn equinox, which was yesterday, I think. And there may be other things going on like chronic illness or just not feeling very well, anemia, whatever, things like that going on in the body. So one of the really nice things about leaning into the fall season is that the invitation around fall and winter is really to slow down and to rest, okay? Some of us are entering into our 3rd trimester now, and that's kind of a time when it gets a little bit harder to move around. You get a little bit tireder and you want to slow down a little bit. You want to be sort of preparing for baby. So let yourself have this rest, okay? Let yourself have this moment where you can just lay back, where nothing in particular is being asked of you. You can simply rest. As you relax your body, see if your breath can naturally become a little deeper. See if you can feel your shoulders just letting go of any unnecessary tension. Let your head be heavy. And just really softening around baby so that baby has space. So that baby can feel the breath moving around. And just briefly touching on that pelvic floor, softening there as well. If you can identify any excess tension around your genital region, just see if you can soften that. So one of the themes that has come up for us a little bit today is managing change. So day-to-day change in the body, feeling tired or uncomfortable. This week I'm feeling the baby really moving up into my rib area. It's quite uncomfortable. And also managing life changes, preparing for a big change in our lives, inviting another person in. And also there might be work changes or just different ways of managing the pandemic as we enter into the fall season as well. And so one of the things that mindfulness can help us with is really riding the waves of that change. So for me, a definition of mindfulness that works is paying attention to what's actually happening with kindness and compassion. So we're paying attention, we're noticing what's going on, but we're not judging. I mean, there might be judgment happening, but we're trying to move away from that. We're trying to just stay present with what's happening in this particular moment without needing to know what it means or analyze it or fix it or try to change it. So when we feel discomfort arise, and you may or may not have some discomfort happening in your body right now, notice that there's a difference between the sensations that you're feeling in your body and the stories that you have in your mind about what those sensations mean. Because the real discomfort and anxiety comes when we worry about what it means. You know, is this illness? Is this A, B, or C? What does this mean? Is the baby okay? Those are thoughts and stories. And we may want to attend to those at some point. There's a time for that. But in our mindfulness practice, what we want to try is just noticing, well, what is the sensation actually happening in my body? And can I stay with it with an attitude of curiosity and kindness rather than needing to analyze it? So if you'd like to practice this a little bit right now, I'll invite you to find a sensation in your body. You don't necessarily have to go with the most uncomfortable sensation right now, but just whatever you might be able to feel. So it might be the weight of your body on the floor. It might be how your belly feels as you breathe. And see if you can focus in on that sensation. And deepen your breath into it. So there's nothing to be done about this sensation right now. We don't need to know what it is. We don't need to know what it means. Not knowing is a beautiful state of mindfulness. So can we get curious about what exactly the sensation is? Where exactly it is in the body? Does it have a texture or a temperature or a color? And observing it closely enough to notice how it shifts and changes as we breathe. So we're resting the awareness on the sensation in the body. And that's it. We're going to try that together in the quiet for the next several moments. So finding any sensation in your body, again, it doesn't have to be the most uncomfortable one, especially if mindfulness is newer to you. And just getting curious about what exactly that feels like. And the stories will be there. The mind will think. Just redirect your attention away from your thoughts into the sensations that you feel in your body. Of course, keeping in mind that if you're getting a signal like you need to move, you can. You absolutely have that choice. But as long as you feel safe, just seeing if you can get intimate with this sensation without needing to judge it. And when those thoughts come up, wondering what it means, just remind yourself, I don't know. And that's okay. I don't know. Beautiful. So let's take a nice deep breath from here and just clear that out. Noticing that if you're feeling like you need to stay in stillness a bit longer, you can. I'm thinking we'll do a little bit of integrating work, we'll stretch out, and then we'll do some restorative. I don't think we're even going to stand up today. Okay, so we'll have quite a gentle class today. So you can take your feet nice and wide, about mat's distance apart if they're not already there. Open your arms up as wide as feels good. And we can take some windshield wipers from side to side, just rocking the knees. And that might be a really slow movement. It might be a little bit faster. It can be nice to move with the breath, but take your time. And you can turn your head as well away from your knees. And then let's extend the legs long, reaching the arms up over the head. You can interlace your fingers if you like and press the palms up. So you get a tiny little bit of stretch into the hands and the wrists, which might feel really nice if you've been getting some of that wrist pressure that I've definitely been feeling in this pregnancy. And then bend your knees up again and have your knees pointing straight up to the sky. So you can have your feet as close as feels comfortable for you. For me right now, that's just about hips distance. And then place your fingertips on your belly for now, actually. Let's start there. So pelvic floor, super important to talk about pelvic floor in pregnancy. We want it to be strong enough to support baby, but we also want it to be relaxed enough that we can release baby when it's time to do that, okay? So as you inhale, tilt your pelvis forward, let your belly expand, and imagine your pelvic floor, which is like a hammock or a trampoline around the genitals, is kind of expanding and widening. On the exhale, gather the pelvic floor in and up, and curl your tailbone under, so your lower back will lengthen a little bit, okay? You can do this seated if you're not comfortable laying down anymore, okay? Inhale, widening, and you could imagine your sit bones are actually separating apart a little bit. They're not going to go anywhere, but just kind of imagine that. And as you exhale, imagine you could gather your sit bones together and bring them up and in towards your body. So we're working with that balance between releasing, which is super important. About half of us are too tight, half of us need more strengthening. So we need to do both, okay? And if you have any concerns about that, a pelvic floor physiotherapist is a really good idea in pregnancy and after. Okay. Yeah, really nice. And then from here, just relax for a moment. Let your back come to neutral, whatever that is with the props that you're laying back on, if you are laying back on props. And then place the peace fingers, two first fingers, onto your hip points, the bones in the front. We're just going to do, this is a core exercise, pelvic floor exercise that is really gentle and really effective. So you're going to lift up your toes and then keep your back neutral and engage the pelvic floor. So gathering, imagining sit bones gathering together, vagina, anus sort of drawing up towards the heart, but keep the spine neutral. And just imagine you're hugging baby up a little bit from below, okay, supporting baby. And then inhale, and as you exhale, let your right knee fall open to the right, any amount. And then bring it back up again. Exhale, left knee opens out to the left, any amount. And then it comes back up again. So this exercise is called knee falls. But the thing I want you to focus on is the fingertips on the hip points. Try to engage so that your pelvis is not moving. And if your hands didn't know better, they wouldn't think anything was happening in the legs at all. So your hips are not rocking from side to side. They're not tilting forward and back. Okay, they're staying really, really steady. So you don't necessarily need a ton of, really strong engagement here, but we're working the stabilizer muscles, and your hips are going to be included with that as well.
Julie, are you engaging your pelvic floor that entire time?
Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, and as you're getting used to it, you might not be able to do that. So it's okay if you need to kind of release and just try to re-engage if you can. And then there's a little bit of a subtler piece that we can add on as well. So as you're bringing a knee in, so I'm going to bring my right knee in, and I'm going to imagine that the right half of my pelvic floor was actually doing the lifting. Okay. And then left knee goes open to the side. So you might feel that there's a little bit of release there. And then I'm going to try and pull in through the left half of my pelvic floor. As I've been practicing this, I can feel the muscles engaging more. The first few times I did this, I couldn't really feel anything. So it starts in your imagination, okay? And just working with that. We're just going to take about one more round. This is plenty. And if you need rest at any point, that's fine. And it might be new to you to keep the pelvic floor engaged the whole time, and that's okay. I'm one of those people that tends to be too tight. So I'm used to clenching all the time. So that's something I've needed to unlearn. Okay, so when you're even on the two sides, relax. So I'm going to take soles of the feet together, knees open wide. You could do knees together, feet wide, or legs long, however is comfortable for you. Hands can still be on belly. And I want you to take a few breaths to fully relax pelvic floor. So completely release when you're ready. We can get a lot of messaging about Kegels in pregnancy. And sometimes we get this idea that we should have the pelvic floor engaged all the time. Not so, okay? Only when we need it. When we're doing specific exercises for it, yes, we might want to be engaging, but you shouldn't be clenching your pelvic floor like when you're walking around, when you're at rest. Most of the time it should be relatively relaxed. And in an ideal world, it just engages naturally when we need it to, okay? More so as baby gets heavier because it has more work to do. Beautiful. Yeah, and feel free to ask any more questions about that if you want to. This is quite subtle work, and obviously you can't see exactly what's happening in the pelvic floor. So do let me know if you have any more questions, okay? As you're ready, let's come off our back. So you can roll to one side. And again, we just want to be mindful of how we use the core. So generally rolling to the side at first is great. And then we're going to come up to our hands and our knees. And take a couple of cat and cows. So spread the fingers, or you could be on fists if your wrists are a little sensitive. Inhale, coming into a little bit of a back bend shape, and exhale to round. So if you feel like you want to keep playing with the pelvic floor a little, you can. And the way that you would do that is as you inhale, relax. And as you exhale, gather in. But you don't have to. It's okay to keep this a little softer if that's where you're feeling like you want to be right now. And add on as you like. So you can make circles, you can move side to side. If you have a little more energy today and it feels good to come up into downward dog, you're welcome to do that. Might feel nice to stretch out the backs of the legs. You could do that also from hands and knees just by stretching one leg back at a time. So being in a little inversion can be really beneficial during pregnancy. It takes the weight off the pelvic floor, but it might also feel kind of weird just with the extra blood volume. I just feel like that feels kind of strange, so I like it for a breath. I need to come down. But every pregnancy is different. So a big part of what we're practicing with that mindfulness is as we get better at noticing what we're feeling in our bodies, we get better at kind of learning the language of our bodies and listening to what we need moment to moment. And that might be really different from what somebody else needs, and that's fine. Okay, beautiful. So let's come back to our hands and our knees if we're not already there. And again, you can change your mind between fists or palms at any moment. Extend your left leg back behind you, tuck the toes under, and just give it a little press so you feel a little bit of a stretch in the calf. Okay, and then spin the heel down and angle your right foot a little bit behind you. You might want to step your right palm a little bit farther forward, and we'll take a gate pose. So side bends are lovely in pregnancy, especially when we start to get that rib feeling going on, just opening up along the side. So left arm can be up, or you can take bicep alongside the ear and just take a nice stretch. Okay, if you want a little more, lift the left foot and left arm up to the sky. So we're floating, a little bit of balancing here. And if you want a little bit more, we can pulse the left heel up to the sky. So we're engaging the outer hip muscles, which help to support the pelvic floor and the sacral area, which can get kind of sore for a lot of us in pregnancy as well. Awesome. And then let's gently come back to hands and knees. And then take that same left leg, so that same one that we were just working, but extend it off to the left, so it's roughly in line with your right knee. I like to do this with my back toes tucked under, it's up to you. We're just gonna rock forward and back a couple of times. So you should feel this in your inner thigh. And I find that if I stick my bum up a little bit, I feel that more in the inner thigh. Yeah. And then you might like to stretch back and just pause where you feel a nice stretch there. Depends on how much space you have in your belly, of course. It's no big deal if your foot comes up off the floor a little bit. Nice, and then gently release. And you could come to downward dog and walk your dog, bending one knee and then the other, or you could take a child's pose. Those would be both nice ways of just resetting. You could do a little of both if you want. Awesome. And then back to hands and knees. We'll just do that little sequence on the other side. Right leg extends back. Tuck the toes and just pulse back a little bit so that we get that nice stretch into the foot and the calf. I don't know if any of you are getting leg cramping or foot pain, which are both really common in pregnancy. It's just nice to stretch out the foot and the calf a little bit there. Yeah, and then spin the heel down, angle the left foot behind you. So it could go straight behind you or on an angle. It's just to give you a little bounce, like a little kickstand there. And then left hand can come a little bit more forward, right arm can come up or alongside the ear. So it's a side stretch. I find it helps to tuck the tailbone a little bit and really puff up into that right side. So good. And if you want a little more, you can float the right foot up off the ground and reach the right arm up. And if you want a little challenge for that outer glute, little pulses. I know this can be a bit uncomfortable, but strengthening those outer glutes is amazing for helping with sacral pain, which is that low back kind of pain that super common in pregnancy and in life. Actually, it's pretty common. And then come on back down as you're ready. Nice work, you guys. Back to hands and knees, and then take that same right leg off to the right. So my sole of the foot is down, but it can pop up a little if needed. I find this is more comfortable for me with my back toes tucked, and I'm just rocking back and forth again, any amount. It doesn't matter how far you go. I just want you to feel a little bit of that inner thigh stretch. And maybe stretching back and holding just in that place where you feel like it's the stretch you want. Awesome. And then gently come back through center, and you could take downward dog, or you could take child's pose, or some combination of both. Down dog can be nice just to clear the knees, bending one knee at a time. But again, you might find you don't want to stay very long. That's okay, you can come in and out. Okay, so I'm going to offer one more stabilizing pose. So if you're willing, come back to hands and knees with me. If you're feeling like I'm not into this right now, feel free to take child's pose, okay? And we'll move on from there. So this is just the last one with a little muscle strengthening, and then we're going to do some other stuff. So on hands and knees, I want you to find that core again. So neutral back, gather pelvic floor in and up, and hug baby as if you were trying to hug your baby behind your heart. Okay, so in and up, doesn't have to be super strong engagement. I find this is easier if I bring my knees a little closer together, and then right leg extends back. And you might stay or extend the left arm forward. And lately I've just been feeling with my hand. I want to make sure that my belly's not doing something called coning. So it's not kind of popping forward. Everything is hugged in. Okay, and again, you can stay or flex the right foot and pulse the arm and the leg up towards the sky. So this is again, just working those glute muscles. We'll stretch them out in a moment. Just working on the stabilizers for the pelvis. This is all really good work for postpartum as well. Just FYI, the stabilizing is really good once you get the okay from your practitioner to do stuff like this. And then release. Nice job, you guys. Okay, last one. Find the core if you've lost it, pelvic floor, in and up, hugging baby back and up. Left leg extends back. You may or may not want to add your right arm. You could also feel, does my belly feel kind of round and even, or is it there like a coning? If all is well, you want a little more, you can pulse. So everything is kind of hugging in. Curious about that discomfort, right? Nice job. And then release. And let's all take child's pose. If you're not there already, let the knees go nice and wide. Take your hands wherever you like them. So I find I like palms stacked and my forehead resting. Some people are comfortable with the arms forward or even in between the knees can feel nice. Just breathing into the lower back. And again, relax mindfully, consciously, pelvic floor. So in an experience of labor, I haven't been through it yet, but what happens is we have sensation, okay? Periods of sensation and then periods of rest where there's no pain, okay? No sensation. So if we can use our mindfulness to just be in the waves of this experience of sensation, then when we can rest, we can really rest and enjoy the experience of, you know, we're not doing those pulses right now. So letting ourselves come in and out. So that's one of the ways yoga can help prepare us for labor. When you're ready, let's come up and take a seat. And if you have a blanket, pillow, low cushion, something like that, just have a seat, cross-legged is fine. And let's just rock that out a little bit. So hands on knees, you can inhale to tip forward and exhale to round back. Inhale, tipping forward and exhale to round back and just letting your shoulders be involved as much as you want. Nice deep breaths. And then if it feels good, we could add a circle like we did last class, if you remember. Little Sufi grind. So again, don't worry too much about what this looks like or how fast or slow you're going. This should feel good. If you're finding there's a place you want to pause, you absolutely can. Just easing off. And again, we're working with a balance between stabilizing and releasing. Okay, let's reverse the direction of the circle if you're circling. Beautiful. And then just slowing down and coming to a nice, relaxed, seated position. And then you could take your opposite shin in front, just so that it's a little unfamiliar. And then as you inhale, reach your arms up to the sky, letting your ribs lift. And as you exhale, bring the hands down along the midline. So one of the things we can think about, especially later in pregnancy, is inhaling to lift and really finding that space in the torso, rising up. And hands coming down. One more time, just clearing the lungs, especially after all that wildfire smoke. So good. Nice. Let's do one more side bend, reaching the arms up to the sky, and then just tip over to one side. I don't really mind which one. Reaching up and over. And I like to hold my head with my top hand, which just allows the neck to relax, and it opens my shoulder a little bit more as well. So you could do that too if you like. And then press the elbow up and that sit bone down, so we get that nice opening into the side waist. And imagine you could breathe right into the side of your rib here. Beautiful. And then gently come back through center as you're ready. Reach up, and we'll take the other side, tipping over. And just looking for that place where it feels good for you, so it doesn't have to be a really deep bend or anything. If anything, I'd like for you to focus more on, can I send my breath into my side that's opening? So we're starting to explore different spaces for the breath that we might have not had to think about because there hasn't been a baby taking up all that space before. Beautiful. And then we'll gently come out, hands onto the lap or beside you. Just take a couple rolls for the shoulders. And then sitting up nice and tall. So we don't need a big engagement for the core here, maybe like a 10%, just to keep us nice and tall. See if you can kind of send your breath into your side ribs. And then let your chin drop forward. And then roll your head over to one side. Chin drop forward and roll over to the other side. So we're just going to take some nice slow neck rolls, kind of in a semicircle. And again, just going at your own pace. So that might mean you pause in a place that feels good. And just exploring how far back you want to go. So you can stretch out the front of your neck a little bit as well. Beautiful. Good. And then when that feels complete, just coming down through center. And then softly rolling up, and you can take a couple shoulder rolls as well when you get to the top. Beautiful. Okay, and then stretch your fingers out in front of your shoulders. And then curl the fingers in towards your palm and make a little paw with your hand so that you feel the back of your wrist stretching. And then inhale and spread the fingers really nice and wide. And as you exhale, curl the knuckles in. So this is a little exercise called the begging dog. And it's a beautiful wrist exercise. So if you type a lot, it's really helpful. If you start to get weird wrist pain, which again, really common in pregnancy, this is super helpful. Okay, unless it hurts, should feel good. One more time. Beautiful. And then we can give that a little circle and a little shake. Okay, so let's just try and do everything I want to do. We'll see how we go for time. So I'd like for us to take a pigeon, but we're going to do it in a supported way. so that it feels somewhat restorative. We won't be here too long, but we'll just kind of release the hips a little bit. So I'm just going to give you an escape route first. If you're finding pigeon isn't working for you or it's too intense, come into cobbler instead, which is a seated pose that looks kind of like this, and you're just working into a little bit of hip opening here. So you have a lot of control here, and it shouldn't hurt your knee. But if you're willing to give pigeon a try, take your bolster or your cushion or whatever and sit on it. And if you have your 2 blocks or Tupperwares or whatever you're working with, just have those kind of at hand. If you have extra bolsters or pillows, grab those as well. So we're going to lean over to the left side. So I'm not sure if you guys can see this super well, but my whole left shin is down on the mat in front of this prop. The right leg is going to extend back. I can stay sitting on my left hip with my right knee a bit bent, but if possible, I'm going to try to get the leg straight. Okay. So if this aggravates round ligament pain, if it feels too intense, just go to the other variation. Okay, you're welcome to stay up high, or we'll fold down, and you can put your elbows on bricks, or you can put them under your chest or your forehead. Okay, so just depending on the props you have, there are a couple different ways you can do this. If you don't have a bolster, but you do have 2 blocks, you can place them underneath each of your hips, kind of like that, so you're still a bit elevated. So what I don't want is your hip hanging in space, okay? Especially in pregnancy, our ligaments are a little looser, which is useful in certain ways, but we don't want to overstretch, okay? So make sure that you feel safe and comfortable there, and it's okay to lean over to your left hip a little bit more. So I'm just going to come in and check in on you guys. There should be no knee pain. Yeah, and you could also come into roughly the pigeon shape and then just sort of tuck your pillow underneath your elevated hip or your block or whatever you're working with. You okay there, Natalie? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, just finding the right spot. Yeah, good. Okay, so here's a place where we can practice a little bit of that mindful discomfort. Pigeon, there's a bit of a stretch that we can breathe into. And so can we work with a practice of noticing the stories that come up? And again, unless there's pain and we are noticing that we need to come out, can we stay and breathe into what we're experiencing rather than trying to hold our breath and not feel? Can we actually let the breath flow and get curious about how the sensation changes? Just for a couple more breaths. Beautiful. Okay, and then we're going to gently come out. So press back up to your hands. You can lean over onto your left hip and bring the back leg to the front. Maybe take the windshield wipers. And then we'll come to the other side. So leaning over onto the right hip, swing the left leg back. The 2 sides might be different. So I don't need you to go past your comfort zone, okay? In fact, don't. Just the first edge of that place where you're starting to feel something is perfect. And you can do that seated cobbler's variation if you're comfortable, and thread the needle, of course. You can do that too if you're comfortable laying on your back. Any hip opening is good here. And just finding that place where you feel some support on the second side, adjusting your props as you need to. So we've got that whole right shin down. Yeah, there we go. And again, can I explore discomfort without judging it? Knowing that this is a safe discomfort. Can I breathe into what's happening? Without needing it to mean anything in particular. Can I learn to breathe with discomfort rather than trying to get away from it? Can I actually relax my body even as I'm experiencing some discomfort? Just for a couple more breaths. And then when you're ready, gently making your way out and just noticing the pleasurable sensations of coming out of something uncomfortable, right? Letting yourself have that moment in between when we're not doing something uncomfortable. And our next pose isn't going to be uncomfortable at all. It'll be really, really comfortable. Yeah, so you can give your legs a little shake if you want. I find that often it just feels nice to clear the knees after pigeon. Okay, so from here, we're going to take a restorative pose that I love for pregnancy. And I do this when I can't sleep, which is all the time these days. I find this really helpful. So I'm actually just going to grab a couple of my couch cushions as well. So you can really improvise with lots of household props. It doesn't have to be yoga stuff. So I want you to have at least one prop that's kind of a bolster or a bolster-like prop. So 2 bed pillows is super effective right here. And then you're gonna have 2 other props. So something under your head, for example, a brick and a cushion, a folded blanket, another couple of piled pillows. If we were in a studio, I would have 2 bolsters for everybody here. And then a third prop, which is something that goes in between your knees. And again, that could be anything. So I've just got two throw pillows here. Folded blanket would work great. Any kind of pillow, even a block is fine, just something to allow your knees to separate a little bit. And actually, some of you might not need that depending on how this feels. So my right hip is on the ground. This prop is gonna support the curve of my waist and baby. My arm is gonna go in between these 2 upper props, and I'm resting my head on this prop at the top here. And my head looks funny because my mic is in this ear. So make sure this is high enough that it feels comfortable in your neck, okay? Top hand reaches forward. So the shoulder can kind of just drop into that space there. And then again, you can have your knees together, or you can slide your top knee down so that the knee comes into the inner arch of the foot. So that's going to feel like a slight bit more of a side bend, which you may or may not like. And then if you have even more props, you could put something underneath your left hand, okay? When I'm in bed, I like to have pillows kind of here so that I can actually wrap the top hand around. I find that just feels nice on my top shoulder. But here, I could have the hand resting on my hip, I could have it resting on the bolster, or I could even take it up over my ear if that feels like a nice side stretch. It doesn't feel that way to me right now. So I'm gonna keep it in front of me, okay? If you have a scarf, you could put that over your eyes. And just taking a moment to kind of fidget in and get comfortable. Okay, so this is like ideal restorative side lying for pregnancy. So take a nice deep breath here. We're gonna have a few minutes here. We've got some time. So make sure that you do feel comfortable. And it's okay if you need to kind of work at adjusting your top hand and finding that right spot. And some of you might find that you want to turn down a little bit more. Others might want to turn up to the sky slightly more. Just finding what feels right for you. And then we can come back to that mindfulness quality of paying attention to what is without needing to know what it means. So I don't know is a beautiful mantra for mindfulness, okay? Especially when those questions come up like, how long is this going to last? I don't know. What does this sensation mean? I don't know. And being able to let ourselves sit with I don't know mind can be so relieving because so much of the time we feel like we have to know. Maybe we don't have to know. Maybe all we need to do is just be in this moment. And that is exactly enough. So take a moment to notice how this is feeling. You might want to stay here a little longer. We're going to make a really slow and lazy transition to the other side. Okay, and we're going to do that through a little bit of movement if you want. Okay. So the first thing that you can do here is take your top leg to straight and reach your top arm over your ear and just take a nice little active stretch through that top side. And then bring your knees together, reach that top arm up to the sky and open the arm into a little bit of a twist. So we don't want to twist the belly, but just the upper body and the chest. So we get that nice opening into the pectorals there. So the arm isn't going to go that far. It's not going to touch the floor, but just to where it feels like a nice little opening. And then one option to come to the other side would be to roll onto your back and just keep rolling until you're on the other side. If you feel more comfortable pressing up from your side to a seat and turning around that way, that's beautiful as well. And I'm just going to spin my body around so that you're not looking at my back, but you don't need to do that. You can just turn to the other side. So bolster supporting, or whatever it is, supporting the waist. Some sort of prop underneath the head, and that could be higher and low or lower, just depending on what feels good in your body. And then something between your knees if you need it, or top knee slides down. So that's going to be just a little bit more of a hip opening. And then just seeing where you want your top arm to be on this side. So maybe resting on the hip or in front of you or up over your ear. Just see what feels best. Maybe you're slightly turned down or up. Fidgeting is totally okay. And then when you get to a place that feels quite comfortable, where you feel like you can relax, take a nice deep breath. And this might be a really nice place to focus some attention on the pelvic floor again. In this case, on relaxing the pelvic floor. For some of us, it's actually easier to do it laying on the side. So just imagining that hammock of the pelvic floor just expanding on the inhale, descending towards the feet. And on the exhale, just relaxing even more. And again, with that mindfulness practice, just getting curious about the sensations around the pelvic floor. So maybe it feels hard to relax. Maybe it feels strange. Maybe there's numbness there. Maybe there's sort of emotion or memory that comes up around even focusing on this area. See if we can come to that I don't know mind, right? What does this mean? I don't know. It doesn't matter right now. We're not trying to figure that out. We're just noticing sensations in the body and just trying to stay here in the present moment. And really loving and embracing that the mind wants to be involved too, and the mind is going to have lots to say, and that's okay. But we're just choosing to place our attention on the body while the mind is also doing mind things, okay? But we're not so concerned with what the mind is busy doing, because the mind likes to be busy. Just focusing on each breath, one at a time. And again, noticing how this is feeling. Maybe you want to stay a little longer. This would be an appropriate Shavasana if you prefer to just stay here throughout the rest of our practice. Okay, otherwise I'll give you some options. So if you'd like, we can come through a bit of movement. You can extend your top leg when you're ready, top arm over the ear, and just take a nice stretch on that top side. And then bring the knees together, reach that top arm up to the sky, and gently open the chest. So it's an upper body twist. We're not twisting the belly. Just getting that nice opening into the chest. As much or as little feels good there. And some of you might like to roll right onto your back from there. That's kind of its own pose. Okay. Otherwise, we'll gently press up to a seat and we'll prepare for a Shavasana. So again, there are lots of different ways to do this. And a Shavasana that you might really like is one with your legs a bit elevated. So you can put your legs over a chair, over a couch, over an ottoman, or over some props. And you can do that with your incline. So here's a couple of examples. So I'm going to just come back to that incline that we started with at the very beginning. Okay. And then I could take my couch cushions and just put them under my shins. So I just have a little bit of elevation there. And even that little bit of elevation is going to feel nice on my lower back and my feet. If I want to be a little more dramatic about it, which I shall, I could grab my ottoman or move up to my couch or even a wall and have a little bit of a higher prop to work with. And then I could take my calves up over that and then lay back. So this is a lovely way of just getting the energy out of the feet, draining down. For a lot of us, this tends to be really restorative for the nervous system, calming for the nervous system. But again, it doesn't really matter how much height you have. So even just a little bit of propping is fine. And if you don't have anything, just lay as you're comfortable, including on your side, which is a beautiful Shavasana for pregnancy as well. So the point here is just to be as comfortable as you reasonably can. And again, hands wherever you like, including on belly, if you'd like to stay kind of connected to baby. Taking a deep breath when you get there. And just seeing how much you can surrender to the support of the earth beneath you. How much you can let your breath be natural and let go of any conscious breath or even any conscious meditation practice. So we can even let go of the mindfulness here. Just coming into rest. And again, the mind can sometimes do mind stuff as we're trying to rest or meditate. And it's really not about shutting off the mind because that's pretty much impossible. It's just about redirecting the attention. Okay, for example, to the breath, to the sensations in the body, to the feeling of being on the earth. Or in some cases, just allowing your mind to sort of wander, but not getting caught up in those thoughts. So we're not going with them. We're staying here, but we're just letting the thoughts happen as well, letting them float by. And just so that we can get a little bit of extra rest here, I'm just going to go a couple of minutes over time, not too much, like within 5 minutes or so. But of course, if you have to go, that's totally okay. We just have a couple minutes before 5:45, but I'll take us through a guided Shavasana a little longer so that we can be with the juice of the rest that we've cultivated in our practice. So again, noticing how you're feeling. If there's any ease or slowness, any calm, even if it's not your whole experience, just if there are pieces of it that have that, take a moment to notice what that feels like in your body and let yourself be with that sweetness or softness. And keeping in mind that, of course, you can stay in your Shavasana as long as you'd like. Okay, if you feel ready to come out, you can deepen your breath and begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. You can stretch your arms up again if you'd like, maybe interlacing the fingers and pressing them up. And then gently bend the knees in and roll over to one side. And then press yourself up to your seat. You could take your hands together at your heart. It might be nice to put one hand on heart, one hand on baby. And just take a deep breath to acknowledge yourself, all the work that your body is doing to nourish another human being, all of the work that you're doing to ride the waves of everything that is happening and changing in your life, and the choice that you made to show up to a yoga practice, to care for your body and your mind and your heart in this moment. Honoring and acknowledging the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us when we practice our yoga. And once again, honoring and acknowledging the sacredness of the land that we practice on, wherever that may be in the world. Thank you for sharing this practice with me this afternoon. Namaste. Thanks so much, everybody. So please let me know if you have any questions or thoughts or anything. I'm going to stick around for a few minutes, and this is also an opportunity where we can ask each other questions and share resources as you like. So feel free to do that, and I will see you hopefully next week. Thanks, you guys.